What is up, guys? Grunax here. So we are now on to the Fire Mage, but before we get straight into that, literally a day after I released my arcade video, um, Wowhead released an update and added their own artifact talent calculator, which isn't a big issue. It's more the fact that they have a working system in it that um, allows you to switch out the different relics to further augment the weapon. So I'll quickly go over just the relics for the arcane stuff, and then we'll get straight into the fire. Alright, so what we've got, the arcane artifact is going to have so every artifact is going to have two relic slots. The arcane one has an arcane and a frost slot. Now, depending on what relic you take is going to affect certain skills on here. Not all of them can be affected, and I'm kind of glad, because if I could put more ranks into my everywhere at once, shit would be broken. Anyway, so we got the increased arcane blast damage one can get an extra rank. As you can see, it's highlighting in the center. Increased arcane explosion range. Increased critical effect chance with arcane spells. And what's this one lighting up? I think, yeah, increases the arcane missile damage. Then we've got increase all arcane damage. You can put more ranks in that. And the one that increases barrage damage. Now, the two that I think are going to be the best is either the increased crit chance, and if you run both of the relics to buff that particular talent to rank 5, it will increase your crit chance with arcane spells by 10%. Now, in the last video, if you remember when I was saying if you got 30% base crit with Torment the Weak, you'll have 60% crit chance. Well, that will put you to a 70% crit chance, which means almost 3 out of 4 times of spell casts are going to crit, which is just crazy. But it does, with this particular relic, it only gives plus 10 item levels. So, and because it says minor trait, I haven't seen anything that says major. So I've got a feeling that there's still more relics to be released that Blizzard hasn't coded up or put in the databanks yet. So we won't know about that, but we've got the minor ones currently. So this is only giving plus 10 item levels, so it's only going to give plus 10 item levels on like the raw stats of the weapon. So like your intellect and stamina and all that stuff, and the weapon damage. And this one, which will be just increased arcane damage across the board. This one will probably be better because it's got an extra 10 item levels increase on it. But it makes it go from 10% increased arcane damage across the board to 16%. And to be fair, I'm a bit of a glutton for critical strikes when I'm playing arcane. I just love seeing mega numbers on my screen. So my personal take, I'm probably going to go with the Lunar Wing Crystal to get an extra rank in my Egwin's Wrath for increased arcane crit chance. And these will all affect the same ones I was just talking about before. So I'll be running Veil of Shadow Frost as well, so that I have a 70% crit chance on my spells. So that's arcane for you, the arcane artifact. Alright, so to start off with one of the items that we do know of, the legendaries that can drop off anything in Legion, is Smolder Weave, and it makes it so that the damage caused by a Pyroblast will give a 200% increased contribution to Ignite. So that's huge. It's just going to put insane Ignite dot on your targets when you do your instant cast Pyroblasts. It's a really good buff. So for talents, we've already gone through the class stuff, so in the last video, so we'll go straight to spec. So we're going to be having Fireball, Pyroblast, Hot Streak. Now, what they're doing with Legion, because on live, you can get a heating up proc, then Hot Streak, and then fish for another heating up while still having a hot streak, so that when you fire that Instacast Pyroblast, if it crits, it's going to give you another heating up prop, putting you straight into a second Pyroblast off the bat. So you get 2 in a row, and if that one crits, you get another heating up, and then you can Inferno Blast for a third Pyroblast following into Combustion, and basically doing some really huge combos. Well, they're getting rid of that. Once you have the hot streak, you cannot get heating ups in Legion. They want you to spend the hot streak when you get it. So, sounds like a bit of a nerf, but it actually is going to be better because of some of the talent choices we can take. It's actually going to accelerate how many instant cast Pyroblasts you can do in a row a lot more than 3 in a very quick succession. So we've got that. Enhanced Pyrotechnics is just increases the critical strike. Every time Fireball fails to crit, it gets a stacking 10% increased critical strike chance, and it will. The effect loses is gone once Fireball finally crits. If you're stacking enough crit like you should in Fire, you probably are not going to have this issue. Inferno Blast has now got 2 charges, so this is really good, which means if you really need to in the entry of a battle, is where you can double Inferno Blast straight into Pyroblasts, into a first Pyroblast. Kind of cool. Combustion's having some changes since Legion. Now, for Legion. On live, Combustion currently combines all damage over time effects on the target and doubles it. Basically makes a separate dot. And it basically just you end up doing a crap load of dot damage. And it's a really nasty skill. But if you don't set up it right with as much damage as you can before you pop it, so like getting as many Instacast Pyroblasts in as you can, to ramp up your Ignite, your Pyroblast dot, and then combusting it so that you actually have a decent amount. Otherwise, combustion can be on live be very unforgiving. The new iteration, it's just going to make it so that you have a 100% crit chance for 10 seconds, and it will also grant you mastery equal to your crit strike stat. So let's just say you have 70% crit. It's a bit retarded number, but just to give you an idea, you pop this, you now have a 170% crit chance, which means you also have a 170% increase to your mastery. So you're going to be critting, and then going to be applying very, very huge Ignite dots with especially with Pyroblast when you have Smolder Weave. The damage over time is going to be immense. So that's going to be pretty cool. 2-minute cooldown though. Molten Armor, increased critical strike chance by a flat 15%. And physical damage reduction. Then we have Scorch, same as always. It's like a wet fish, castable while moving though. Short cast time, good for fishing, for procs. Flame Strike's had a bit of a change. It is now a 4-second cast that you put this thing on the ground, and anybody hit by it reduces their movement speed by 50% for 8 seconds. Now, it doesn't say the radius, so what I'm going to do, we'll have a look, see what sort of area of effect we got. I'm wondering if it means 40-yard range and that's how far we can place it, or if it's a 40-yard explosion out from us, like a big, massive flame strike that, like the pillar, says calls down a pillar. If the pillar drops on you and explodes out from you, maybe. We don't know. I don't know. So I'm not entirely certain. These are all patch notes. Yeah, so it's either got 40-yard range that you can place it on the ground, or it's going to be a 40-yard fucking AoE explosion around you. But hence why it's probably got a big cast time for its massive AoE. So we'll have to see. Not entirely sure on that one. Critical Mass makes it so that your Fireball and Pyroblasts will have, and Scorch, their critical strike chance will be increased by 1.3. So let's assume you have 0% crit in any of your gear. You're already getting 15% from Molten Armor. And then with Critical Mass, these 3 spells have a flat 30% on their own. So if you have no crit, so say you're not wearing any gear, you have already got a passive 45% crit chance on your Pyroblast, Fireball, and Scorch. So what we want to do, which I'll explain with some of the talents as to why we want to do this, you want to cap your crit to the point where Pyroblast is at 100%, but your actual crit rating isn't. You want the Pyroblast to always crit, and I'll show you when we get to the talents, because you can do some dumb shit with it. So we got Dragon's Breath. Targets in a cone, so does damage, disorient for 4 seconds. It's pretty good. Ignite still seems to be the same. Target will burn for an additional percentage over 9 seconds of the total damage caused by your Fireball, Inferno Blast, Scorch, Pyroblast, and Flame Strike. If the effect is reapplied, any remaining damage stacks back up. Yep. Every 2 seconds, your ignites may spread to another nearby enemy. That looks new. So as a passive way to spread, and you can also spread your ignite with Inferno Blast. So you can force it to spread to everyone within a set yardage. I'm not entirely sure what it is. So for talents, we got Pyromaniac. This is the crazy bit. So we can't do our pre-setup to get double Pyroblast in a row, but this allows us so that if we get our hot streak and we consume it with a Pyroblast, there's a 50% chance it will just reactivate the hot streak and you'll get to do a second one. And if you get lucky enough with your procs, you can essentially get triple or quad or penta or hex or hepta fucking Pyroblasts in a row. So if you get really lucky with your procs, you could essentially get up to 10 Pyroblasts in a row, instant cast. Fucking crazy. That's what I'm going to be running. Conflagration. Enemies affected by Ignite have a chance to flare up for 3 seconds, while flared up nearby enemies take 20% of spell power, fire damage each second. It's not huge damage. It's cool. Reckon it'd be more PvE oriented for AoE and stuff. When you spread your Ignite around with Inferno Blast. And then 5-star. Fireball can now chain up to 1 nearby enemies. This is kind of interesting. Pyromaniac's really good for your single target nuke. But this is quite interesting with one of your artifact talents you can take. Fireball will purge one magical effect. And I'm guessing if you have this talent, that's going to do it to 2 people. One magical effect purge from each of 2 people. So this looks interesting. I'm not sure how well this will work out in reality, but on paper it looks cool. This tier, same as when we were on the Arcane video, Ice Block. Here, I am personally going to be going for Incanter's Flow with this, just more damage. Mirror Image, I just feel is going to be more beneficial for Arcane due to their Mirrored Entity and being able to just throw more images out. Here, normally most people would go with Blast Wave like we always have. Does quite a lot of damage, 200% of your spell power, and the primary takes double the damage, so 400% on the primary, and everyone else in 8-yard range of the target is 200%. Does quite a lot of damage, and it's a hectic slow for 4 seconds, 70%. It is a good talent. It is still worth running, but with what particular build I'm going to run, I don't want it. Flame On, when activated, grants you 2 charges of Inferno Blast, so you can basically go Inferno Blast, Pyroblast. Say it doesn't re-give you back your hot streak, you can hit Flame On and go Inferno Blast, and you get another Pyroblast off, bang, and you might proc another one after it. It's got its place, it's useful, still good, kind of like Charged Up, only Charged Up's a little bit more dumb for Arcane because of their 4-charge shenanigans with their staff. This is the part that I like. Controlled Burn. When you gain Heating Up, there's a 10% chance to instead instantly go into a hot streak. This chance is increased by your critical strike. So this is basically back to like what we had back in Cataclysm, where if you got a crit, you had a chance for Pyroblast to go instant cast. But the second crit in a row would always give it to you. So this is basically returning this, which is a mechanic I loved back then because you could essentially get Pyroblast after Pyroblast after Pyroblast without having to cast anything else. if you got your procs right. Now this we can improve with, if we got more crit, the more chance is that that heating up proc is just going to go straight to a hot streak instead. And this chained with Pyromaniac is going to be crazy. So if Pyromaniac fails to give you what you need, so that, say that if I first Pyroblast, it crits, but Pyromaniac doesn't go off. But that one crit that gave you heating up, Control Burn might instead make that a hot streak anyway. So you're doubling up your chances to get your instant cast Pyroblast chained off in a row. So this is very, very cool. Ice flows, I don't see the point for it in fire. If you need to be mobile, you're going to be and you're not having instant cast procs, and you're not got Inferno Blast off cooldown, you're going to be using Scorch anyway, because it can be cast on the run. You just use that for fishing while you're moving. So ice flows is not so much. It's still good, but you'd be using on fireballs pretty much. Still a viable choice. Ring of Frost, same as what I was saying in Arcane. You're not really designed. Your job is not to CC. You're here to do damage. Difference with Fire and Arcane. Fire likes to, apart from doing some pretty strong single target damage, they do cleave quite a bit of their damage while doing it. Whereas Arcane has the choice between smacking the shit out of someone or with their combos that they're going to have you just go, here, have some AoE, splat. So I see Fire Ice Ward is probably going to be the best choice, or at least for me, or how I'm going to run. Just some more ways to keep people away from you. Living Bomb. Finally, it's on a tier where we can take it again. I always used to love Living Bomb back in Cataclysm. People said it's crap. There's nothing wrong with it. I like it. It's more damage over time. But it was, I think on this expansion, I think it was sharing with the Blast Wave. So I would love Unstable Magic if it applied to Pyroblast, but because this build's going to be mostly doing nothing but Pyroblast and not really touching your Fireballs or your Scorches where possible, you're not going to really want Unstable Magic. But otherwise, if it affected Pyroblast, 30% chance to get an additional 50% on that Pyroblast that's also going to explode on people would be very cool. But unfortunately, we don't have that, so it's a sad face for me. Flame Patch. Flame Strike ignites the ground that it's cast on, leaving a patch of fire behind, which continues to burn enemies in it for 20% in spell power as fire damage per second for the next 15 seconds. Kind of cool. Probably more PvE orientated with trash clearing. I'm personally going to prefer Living Bomb, and it can be spread by your Inferno Blast. So basically, when you're opening up on someone, you're doing like Living Bomb. You're doing say you ignite, and then because of Control Burn, that first ignite, say it go that heating up proc, instead because of Control Burn goes straight to a hot streak. You fire off Pyroblast, and say you get a chain of Pyroblast, and you still got Living Bomb on the target, and then you can Inferno Blast again, spread all that dot damage, and because say by the time you've pushed that Inferno Blast, Living Bomb's got maybe 2 seconds left, and there's a bunch of guys within 8 yards, and then you got all these Living Bombs exploding on each other, doing quite a lot of damage, especially to the primary target that you're trying to kill. So it's very useful. Next here is Kindling. So your Fireball, Pyroblast, and Inferno Blast critical strikes reduce the remaining cooldown on combustion. Now, because we're looking at, if we have enough crit, Pyroblast is going to crit all the time. So, and Inferno Blast will always crit regardless. Fireball is not something we're going to be ending up casting very often, but if we do, it's still going to crit because we're going to set up our cap so that our Pyroblast and Fireball are always going to have a 100% crit chance. So this is very interesting to get your combustion off cooldown a lot quicker for more frequent use. But also Cinderstorm is interesting in conjunction with one of the artifact talents, where this year send out 6 cinders in a frontal arc. Don't really do much damage, 50% spell power is fire damage to enemies they hit, but it's on an 8-second cooldown, 1.5-second cast. The reason why this is a good thing to combo with one of the things in the artifact I'll get to when we get there. So it looks shit until you look at the artifact. One of the active effects you can get from it, it's actually not too bad. So we've got Meteor. You know, all know what Meteor is. It still is what it was. Dragon's Breath Meteor, still a great combo. Probably going to be running this or Kindling. I'm going to probably start with Kindling and do some testing with it and see how it goes, but I've got a feeling Meteor is probably going to be a bit stronger to help with our burst initiation and that sort of stuff. So this is probably going to be my main build, most likely, for Arena and RBG when I'm playing Fire. So if we go on to the PvP talents, it's going to be the same as with some of these for Arcane, is Trinket, Increased Haste. I'm still going to go Prismatic Cloak because it's just so useful. If you got Chaos Bolt, Inbound, Blink, hits you. Well, it doesn't actually hit you because it misses. So Arcane basically wants to be blinking on cooldown and only having a very limited window where people can do stuff to it, whereas with your 15-second blink in Fire or Frost, Prismatic Cloak you want to use, at least against casters, for specific spells where you don't have your interrupt available. Same thing here, Kleptomania, just complete cleanse. So we're on to the new stuff talents. So we've got Tinder. If you have not cast Fireball for 8 seconds with your next Fireball will deal 30% increased damage with a 50% reduced cast time. Not bad. Welding Flames reduce the cast time of Flame Strike by 2.5 seconds, bringing it down from 4 to 1.5. So I have a feeling, because it is a 4-second cast, it is a huge cast. It explodes around you in 40 yards. That's my guess. But this reduces cast time and increases its damage by a further 30%, so it's now 130% of your spell power. So it does a little bit more damage. Still not going to be huge. Also an interesting choice because it means you can cast it very quickly and you hit everyone within 40 yards and slow them for 50% for 8 seconds. It has no cooldown, so not a bad choice on this line at all. Flare Up, Inferno Blast charges increased by 1. So you now have 3 charges in your Inferno Blast. This, in my opinion, for the build where we're trying to get as many instant cast Pyroblast as possible, gives you more buffer space to generate hot streaks. I feel Flare Up is what I'm probably going to be run. And using Inferno Blast on a target not affected by Ignite will refund a charge. So when you open on a fight, you're going to go for an Ignite straight away, or Living Bomb Ignite. And you may, in that single Ignite, that's going to generate a Ignite. The Inferno Blast is going to generate an Ignite. And in that one use, might turn that heating up into a hot streak, giving you Pyroblast to basically start the fight off straight away. Boom. So I feel this is going to be the strongest, or at least for the build that I'm going to look at doing, where it's emphasizing more on crit as opposed to mastery, because if we're doing nothing but Pyroblast, Smolder Weave takes care of the fact that we don't have as much mastery as we normally would, because we're focusing as much on crit as possible. So we're still getting fairly large ignites, and when we want a surplus of mastery, we're using Combustion, not for the crit, and we're using it for the fact that it's going to turn all that surcharged crit we've got. That cooldown becomes a massive mastery cooldown buff for even more dot damage. So we've got Firestarter. Your Fireball reduces the cooldown of your combustion by 20 seconds. This is more interesting when you're running the build, a more streamlined build where you're going to be using Scorches, Fireballs, and a whole mixture of your skills, as opposed to going to the route I want to go with, where I don't have to cast a single cast bar. So it's still good, just not for the build that I'm looking at running. Flame Cannon. After standing in combat for 2 seconds, your maximum health increases by 5% and the damage increases by 5% as well as your spell range by 5 yards. This effect stacks up to 3 times for 5 seconds. Not so sure how well this will operate in PvP, but for PvE I can see this being fairly good. But being a PvP talent tree, can't use this in PvE. So Greater Pyroblast. This is what I want. A whole bunch of instant cast Pyroblasts that now do double the amount that they used to. Because Pyroblast is 300% of your spell power. Now they're giving us one that's 600%. It's more damage. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Alright, on to the artifact weapon. So, what I was saying about Cinder, what's it called? Cinderstorm, where you got a whole bunch of people in front of you. Cinderstorm, they all get ignited from just putting fire on all of them. Phoenix Reborn, 1 minute cooldown. Instant cast, pop it, and that 10,000 damage I'm guessing is a placeholder number, so that's probably not the actual damage. But it'll deal damage to every ignited target and grant a flame orb for each Phoenix birthed. So, Phoenix Reborn. Let's see if I can find it. This is what I want. So yeah, casting a Pyroblast will so you'll get flame orbs, and casting Pyroblast will instead fire a Phoenix Flame. So the Phoenix Flame is and this buff, the flame orbs will last for a minute. So and they're stackable. So Phoenix Flames is basically an enhanced Pyroblast. So I'm wondering if causes this much damage to the primary target and splashes it as well within 4 yards. So I'm wondering how this is going to influence with, say, Greater Pyroblast, because I'm wondering if it's gonna, because this is basically almost double what a normal Pyroblast is. So let's just take away 300% so it doesn't look so silly with what I'm about to propose that it's probably going to do. Fuck off, EFT, go away. So we got what, 539.2. We'll take away 300% because that's the base amount of Pyroblast. So it's a 239.2% damage increase. So I'm wondering if with the Greater Pyroblast, it's just going to be a Phoenix Flames that now is 839.2%. I don't know. We'll have to see what Blizzard does. But even more damage Pyroblast, it's going to be awesome. More instant casts, high-powered Pyroblasts. So we'll have to see what Blizzard does with that, because I'm only speculating. I'm not entirely sure with that. Fireball damage increased by 5% up to 15. It's good, just not good for what I'm doing. With my build that's just doing nothing but Pyroblasts and hitting like a freight train with lots of instant casts, or at least what I want to try and do. A lot of the talents in this weapon are obsolete and probably almost useless because you're not going to be using them. Increases the damage of Ignite. Good. Useful. Scorched Earth. When you cast 4 consecutive Scorches, you gain Pyroblast, making your next Pyroblast spell instant cast free and deal an additional 300% spell power as additional damage. Because we're not going to be casting Scorches, although it may be interesting in certain situations where you need to open up with a big burst and guarantee that first Pyroblast at the start of the fight. Getting 4 Scorches off in a row, and I'm wondering if that 300% increased damage will apply to Greater being a 900% Pyroblast. And assuming that the Phoenix Flame stacks even higher with that, with those flame orbs, it could essentially be a 1,139% Pyroblast instacast on the opener. I don't know. We'll have to see. Pretty big speculation, but we'll have to see how this is going to interact with the Phoenix Flames and Greater Pyroblast. This might be the sole exception to casting nothing but Pyroblast is on openers, where you do it basically essentially Scorch, and they're like, oh, he's fishing, when it's like, no, I got my procs. I'm just preparing my soft open, using a soft open to prepare for something that's just going to absolutely fucking gobsmack you. So that'll be interesting. One of the Gob Dragon skills here are currently unknown, so don't know what that is yet. When you flame strike, you will trigger 3 additional times. Okay, so so if you cast Flame Shock, it's going to detonate 3 other times afterwards, kind of like a reverberating effect, so like poof, 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 poof. That makes World in Flames a lot more interesting because it's going to increase the base damage more and it casts quicker. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I might have to do some testing of that. I might take it over Flare Up. We'll just have to see. It'll be good. I reckon it'll do some really good cleave damage. Increasing the damage reduction of your Molten Armor. When you blink, you'll heal for a certain amount over 6 seconds. It's a placeholder number. Reduce the cast time of Fireball by 0.3. We're not really going to be casting fireballs, so it's kind of annoying. Pyroblast deals 10% more damage. Bring it on. More Pyroblast damage. Increasing fire damage by 10%. More fire damage. Bring it. Inferno Blast deals more damage. Yay, more skills we use. Fireball will dispel 1 beneficial magic effect. Really cool, just not useful for us. Although it might be in the cases where you want the times you're going to be casting Fireball is, say, a priest and they go like Power Wheel Shield or any absorbs and you want to get rid of that fucking shit. You're going to be probably spamming a couple fireballs to get rid of it. But with Kleptomania, you're just going to fucking spell steal everything anyway. So I suppose this is going to be useful for when that thing's on cooldown, when they reapply buffs after you've taken them all. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Pyretic Incantation. Every consecutive critical strike increases your critical strike damage by 15%. So this is where it gets more crazy. With those instant, if you can't get a cap that makes it so that your Pyroblast is going to be 100% crit chance all the time. You get that first crit, it generates a hot streak. Your Pyroblast, it crits. Pyromanic goes off and doesn't consume the hot streak. You've got that first crit, you've now got 15% increased critical strike. Oh, sorry, it's increased critical strike damage. That's even better. Sorry, just ignore everything I've just said. You want to reach that 100% crit cap for Pyroblast, because every consecutive instant cast Pyroblast is going to, the critical strike damage is going to be increased by 15%, stacking every time you do it. So every follow-up one, it's going to hit harder and harder and harder and harder. So that's going to be nuts. Then in Blast Furnace, Inferno Blast now applies Crucible of Flames, dealing additional damage over 9 seconds. We'll have a look at that. And we've got another unknown skill for the time being. Crucible of Flames. Still no data. Sad face. Oh well, when we're using Inferno Blast, we're going to be putting an additional dot. Kind of cool. Alright, so relics. I'm pretty sure they have not got the Fire Mage's relics code. No, because nothing's highlighting. Oh well. So, the whole idea behind this build is crit capping Pyroblast, get crap loads of instant cast Pyroblasts that get stronger with every single consecutive one because 15% increased critical strike damage per successive critical strike. Damage, basically, already hard-hitting greater Pyroblasts that ramp and do more damage with every consecutive use, as long as they crit. This is going to be fucking crazy. Fire is coming back on the competitive level, which I'm really happy about, because last I recall them being, like, when I was playing it and it felt competitive, was Cataclysm and a little bit in Mop. But at current, Fire Mages don't feel very competitive at all. This is just going to be nuts. It's going to be like with you just can't be interrupted. The only way they can stop your damage is to crowd control or silence. They can't use interrupts as long as you don't use a cast bar, and assuming you keep getting your instant cast. It's just going to be nuts. Anyway, leave comments in the below what you think about this particular idea for fire, or if what you're thinking of running something different. I'm thinking for the crit, because you're going to have that 45% base on the Pyroblast, you then need to at least just get 55% crit, which is going to be very difficult considering that's 55%, not including that 15% from your molten armor. But you do get in your pass, I don't know if they've gotten rid of it. Critical mass, no. I think they got rid of it. We had a passive skill that increased all critical strike stats that we received by, I think it was 30% or something dumb. Anyway, so ideally you want to try and get as close to 55% crit as possible. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Next video coming up will be Frost. I've decided I'm just going to do Frost, get that out the way, and then I'll go on to the Shaman. That way I keep the class guides linear. Alright, see you guys next time.